It's Sunday morning, and every decent man and woman is listening to Test Miles with Nick Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Buckle in.
It's Sunday morning, time to talk cars for the next 60 minutes on your weekly automotive experience. I'm Nick Miles, and you're listening to America's Automotive Radio Show. This is Test Miles, locally created, nationally celebrated. This morning's team of misfits, rapscallions, and ne'er-do-wells includes Jenya the intern, Sean Walker, our producer, and old man Brad. And I got a text this morning, middle of the night morning, from Oli, the Volvo Viking seller, who told us that the alcoholic drinks were a little heavy last night, and he may need to take a day off.
Too much Aquavie?
Too much Aquavie. He was doing, I think he was partying a little too hard for his own good. All right, what's on the show this morning? We're going to talk about the vehicles that we've been driving. We're also going to get a little bit of opportunity to talk to a couple of vehicle specialists. We're going to talk to somebody about the brand new 2015 Ford Edge from Ford, and also the opportunity to talk to an engineer from Fiat Chrysler Group about their new all-wheel drive vehicles, which Sean and I got to spend a week in Montreal, Canada, test driving. Yes, it was -7 degrees, and that is Fahrenheit, not Celsius. It was pretty ugly weather up there. Let's talk about the vehicles we've been driving. Got the opportunity to spend the week in a brand new Range Rover long wheelbase. Now, this is a four-door SUV, luxury SUV. Very opulent interior, much like a British club, full leather. You expect to have a cigar dispenser there at the back somewhere. Very, very quick engine. It's that V8 supercharged, capable off-road as well. Not that anybody that needs 7.5 inches of extra legroom will be taking it off-road at all. However, they may be using it as somewhat of a limo. It is a little bit of a, I would say, choppy ride, braking, sudden braking, and those sort of things. There's so much weight in the vehicle because of the extra length.
Did you ride in the back at all? How was the ride back there?
And I did sit in the back for a while and ride in the back. The ride's great, but at 5'4", I need an Apple box to get in and out of the vehicle. It does have the air suspension, so you can lower it. It does come with a 3-liter V6 supercharged and a 5-liter V8 supercharged engine, 340 horsepower versus 510, 8-speed automatic, all-wheel drive, of course, all-wheel drive. We don't even need to go into how Range Rover do their all-wheel drive. Its competition, it doesn't really have any solid competition because it's the long wheelbase version. The short wheelbase coming in the V6, probably the best one, the long wheelbase in the V8. The Mercedes GL and the Lexus LX are probably its closest competition. You may also look at your Escalade if you want something comparable. But by the time you get to this sort of over $100,000 in Range Rover, there isn't really any solid competition, not for the size back there. They do have some trim levels, the supercharged, autobiography black. We're getting into complete American opulence here, or European opulence, depending on how you look at it. These cars are really only sold to governments and to the super rich around the world.
Elton John.
Yeah, I don't know. Elton John's a bit of a Rolls-Royce fan. I'm not sure he has a Range Rover. The starting price, $106,000, $995. That's a lot of money. So expensive, amazing, yes, but completely expensive. Lottery money winning car, yes, clearly.
So I just got back from the limo show, and you can get a modified Sprinter for $97,000. That's a 6-passenger with a bar and the full big screen TV and the whole thing. So, and that's a status vehicle now for a lot of ball players and things like that. So it's interesting how it's changed.
The thing with the Sprinter, though, the difference between the Range Rover and the Sprinter in my mind, mentally for me, is I could drive the Range Rover or I could ride in the back. But I could really only ride in the back of the Sprinter.
True.
So those are the huge differences. Now, when Sean and I went to the M-Cars guys down here in Southeast, they have a customized Sprinter that has Bentley seats in the back. It's $300,000.
Yeah, $300,000. The Bentley seats are actually extended So because normally the Bentley seats would be 18 inches wide. These were, I believe, 22 inches wide. So you have a little more length.
I think Bentley seats are 19 and the
19,
23.
sorry.
And 23. Anyway, clearly beautiful coffee maker in the back, espresso maker in the back, which I think is kind of different. Now, you always expect bottles of liquor when you get in a limo. But you were saying a lot of people don't want to get in and out of a limo because it's awkward.
No, there's just no classy way to get in and out of a limo. So the big deal right now is the Sprinter and some of those vehicles that are easy access but luxurious. So the Range Rover actually fits within that category for picking up ball players, things like that.
I'm going to leave my second vehicle to see if we have time later in the show because we're on top of time. Sean, what have you been driving this week?
I've been driving the Kia Sedona SX Limited. Can't say that today. Kia is not calling this a minivan. They're calling it a multi-purpose vehicle.
We should probably visit that first of all, too, because Ford are doing the same thing with the Transit Connect. They don't want to call it a minivan. They call it, a people mover.
Yeah, exactly. But I had this discussion last night at dinner. It has sliding doors. It's a van.
All right.
Although I like this car. I really enjoy this car. It rides a lot comfortable. It rides more comfortable than the Lexus I had last week. And it's shocking because it rides better in some high-end luxury vehicles. It has tons of space inside, wider stance to give it more of an SUV look. It has a 3.3-liter V6 engine that's replacing last year's 3.5. Has 276 horsepower, 248 pounds-feet of torque, and a 6-speed automatic transmission. It gets 18, 25, and 20 combined. There's only 5 competitors out there anymore. It's Toyota Sienna, Dodge, and Chrysler. Nissan has a minivan. And
the Quest actually was canceled this year. So.
Was it canceled?
Yeah.
Good.
Was not aware of that. So now it only has 4 competitors.
So
and then the Honda Odyssey.
Honda Odyssey.
Yep.
The two, what was it called? The the VW version.
Rutan, which was just a Chrysler
Right,
minivan.
it was a rebadged Chrysler. That's gone too.
The Sienna has some cool features, like the middle seats, they actually go sideways and up and down. They also have reclining all the way back and leg ottomans to them. So it's a very comfortable ride.
The
Sedona, sorry. Got me tongue-tied today. And, I mean, my 2 ups and 1 down is how comfortable the drive is. The steering's very responsive. Like, you feel you're in a sports car. And I really don't have a bad for this car. The only bad I do have for it is I'm just not a fan of the grille on it. That's nothing.
It's a little more aggressive front end that they put together.
For it, yeah. I mean, there's this honeycomb kind of badge to it. And they stick out a little bit. I'm just not a fan of it, but it's grown on me.
Brad.
So I got a chance to get into a car that I really had no preconceived concept of. It was the 2015 Hyundai Santa Fe. It just didn't resonate with me. I knew of it, of course, and I think that's probably the biggest problem with the vehicle is that it gets lost in a heavy competitive group of people. It's the mid-size SUV crossover that competes with the Durango and some other vehicles that are really, really strong. But this is a great vehicle. It's got 2 options. The Sport, we talked about this earlier, is actually the lower level of the vehicle. It's the 2 rows versus the regular Santa Fe is the 3 rows. And the 2 row, it has an inline 4-cylinder 2.4 liter with 190 horsepower, which was great fun to drive. Everything was terrifically nice inside. I love the appointments. The real pros for me is the ease of use for all the technology. It just synced up beautifully. The comfort and ease to get in and out, and of course the warranty. The only real negative was that it was a little bit smaller in the cargo capacity than I would have liked, and there's oddly no rear entertainment system that's available. But you just go to Mobile West anyway and get a really cool system put in, so that's great.
Good plug-in for them, Brad.
So, and the most fun feature is the hands-free automatic opening lift gate, with if you've got kids in tow and things like that is a huge feature. But
I hope you don't have. Yeah, I hope you're not towing kids with this.
After yesterday, maybe. The base price on the Sport is $24,950, and you range all the way up to the mid to upper 30s with all the different configurations. Solid 8. It really grew on me. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
And it has won a whole bunch of awards. All right, you're listening to Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL. When we come back, we're going to be talking Ford and all-wheel drive from Fiat Chrysler. Johanna Slanger is going to join us on the phone to talk about the new 2015 Ford Edge. That's when Portland's Automotive Radio Show returns. Test Miles. I'm Nick Miles.
Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.
If you enjoy the radio show, you may enjoy our videos too. You can find them at our Test Miles page. Go check out the best 5 non-luxury sedans available in America right now.
Here's a fun fact so you can impress your friends. The very first police car was 100% electric. In 1899, the police of Akron, Ohio, fielded an electric-powered wagon that could hit a grand total of 16 miles per hour, thanks to a pair of 4-horsepower motors.
Amazing. And probably no police department would have an electric vehicle now. Just imagine.
They want a Charger.
Yeah. In pursuit. Oh, we're out of power. There you go. It's codenamed the U387. It's the most successful SUV or CUV in its class, with sales of well over 100,000 units. And now Ford have produced a new version of the vehicle. I have to tell you, I was skeptical that the new Ford Edge would not be a hit. But after spending a day driving it in Arizona, I'm convinced it is going to be a hit. And the new Edge is coming out swinging. The Ford Edge is named the Ford Edge is a mid-size crossover CUV manufactured by the Ford Motor Company. The first generation of the Edge was based on the Ford CD3 platform, shared with the first generation of the Fusion. Now, the first generation of the Edge debuted at the Detroit North American International Auto Show, January 2006, and was produced in October 2006 as a 2007 model. Just in case you've forgotten or you've tried to forget about 2006, that was the same year that the iPhone came out. Joining us on the phone is Johanna Slanger from Ford. Welcome to the show. So what's new, Johanna, about the new 2015 Edge?
Well, good morning. Thanks, Nick, for having me on this morning. Appreciate being able to talk to you guys about the Edge from our perspective here in Dearborn. We're in love with it as well, so I'm happy to hear your feedback. We're just really excited to continue to build off that previous model you mentioned. That product was a leader for us, and certainly it's been very well received when we had our media event about 2 weeks ago. And being able to offer technology and powertrain options and just hear the feedback from our outgoing model customers and being able to share that in this 2015 Edge, it's a highlight for us.
So what's different about the 2015 than the 2014? Did you change a few body panels, or is there bigger changes?
Well, this is a completely all-new Ford Edge. The 15 is ground up from the tires to the powertrains. We have one carryover powertrain in the showroom. That's the 3.5-liter. But we're offering now a new standard engine in that 2-liter EcoBoost, our twin-scroll engine, as well as we've actually now offering a new unique sport 2.7-liter EcoBoost engine. So I think you've had hopefully the same experience. Just the interior cabin is different. The sheet metal is different. Everything about this Edge is different.
What's the new trim level standard? Because you now have 4 trim levels, is it?
That's correct. Yep. We are building from an SE model. Again, same as the outgoing price point, but SE, SEL, titanium, and sport. So the titanium is essentially the limited in the previous model. We've upgraded it now to the titanium.
Now, I noticed when we were talking about this before the show started this morning, and that is that in some American companies, sport tends to be the top-of-the-line vehicle, whereas in some Korean or Japanese companies, sport tends to be the entry-level vehicle. So sport is the absolutely fully packed vehicle that you can get, right?
That is correct, and I agree with you. It definitely different automakers have different strategies, and I think the sport being our higher end Again, still paired very well in the showroom with the titanium, but having the unique powertrain and having some unique features, it works very well for the Ford group.
Now, I was lucky enough to drive the EcoBoost Sport version, and super impressive. I mean, the handling of this vehicle, the edge had been fairly soft and fairly rolly in the previous generation, and this new one, tight, sharp, easy to turn. I may have got it up to 130 miles an hour on the freeways in Arizona, but there again, I may not have got it that fast. Tell me a little bit about this EcoBoost engine.
Well, we're just excited, and we're ecstatic after all the feedback that we've had on our sport. Just coming from car lovers, the sport for us is has a place in our heart for obviously the new 2.7 EcoBoost engine, which has just blown everybody away, literally and figuratively. It is our fastest, highest performance sport that we've ever offered in an Edge. And we love how fun it is to drive. It's building off of the platform that's available on all of the Edges. It allows us to have, unique suspension, unique tunings, unique ride, unique grills, everything that a sport customer really wants.
Now, I have to tell you, and this is not quite public knowledge, but it's not necessarily private either. When we road tested it, we road tested it in a non-scientific 0 to 60 test. And just to give everybody a measure of this sort of size vehicle, the BMW X5 entry level with a 6-cylinder inline six gets about 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds. So when we tested the EcoBoost Sport Edge version for 2015, we actually got 6 seconds, which is 0.2 better than the X5.
Yeah, we were really ecstatic to hear some initial feedback from people. As I mentioned, we love the Sport. We love all of our models in the showroom, but the Sport is really bridging on what our Sport customers from our outgoing model wanted and asked for, and continuing that. So we're just excited to see all the numbers as they come in.
So quickly, as we run out of time this morning, tell us a little bit about availability and pricing for the 2015 Edge.
So we actually are seeing Edges show up in dealers now. We sold our first one last week, so we're ecstatic to get them into our customers' hands and get more feedback. The SE model starts at $28,995. That's same as the outgoing model. So we've had a lot of wizardry within our marketing team to be able to offer it at the same starting price point. We go up $200 in the SEL model at $32,395, and then grow from there in our titanium and Sport.
Absolutely, that's great. So if you are in the market for a full-size CUV, something along the lines of the Ford Edge or the Murano, you definitely have to make sure that on your test drive list, the Edge is there. Johanna, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Test Miles. You can, of course, go price your Edge out at Ford.com, or you can find more information this week on our news story, which will be on TV stations at testmiles.com as we reveal our 0 to 60 test in the Edge. You're listening to Test Miles and FM News 101 KXL. Coming up, we're going to talk all-wheel drive. That's next. I'm Nick Miles.
Throw it in neutral and coast in with testmiles.com.
If you enjoy the radio show, hopefully you will enjoy videos that Test Miles put out as well. Go to testmiles.com and watch our videos on the history of the VW Golf. As the VW Beetle, too.
Here's a fun fact so you can impress your friends with. BMW's four-cylinder engine heritage was so important that in the 1960s, they designed their headquarters to look like one.
Yes, that's true. BMW's headquarters does look like an engine. If I ask you to name two car companies who have mastered the all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive vehicles, I'm sure you could come up with Land Rover and Jeep at the top of your list. Now, Jeep is part of the new Fiat Chrysler Automobiles group, and the company is arguably one of the leaders of all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive makes in the world. Sean and I spent the better part of a week in Montreal at minus 7 degrees. That's Montreal, Canada. Test driving some of the new vehicles, and joining us on the phone is Mike Kirk from FCA. Mike, welcome to Test Miles. What brands does the Fiat Chrysler Automobile Group have that are all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive?
Hi, Nick. We offer all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive in pretty much all the brands that we have. We have it in the Fiat line. We have it on Jeeps, obviously, Chryslers, Dodges, and then, of course, our Ram pickups and other vehicles.
Now let's talk about the capability of all of these vehicles sort of overall. You know, we know about Jeep. Scott Brown has taken us many times up into California. We've been in Texas. We've taken these vehicles, some extreme off-roading in the Jeeps. So how does that sort of transfer into the other Fiat Chrysler automobiles? Are they as capable off-road as the Jeeps?
Oh, there's no vehicle that's capable as a Jeep, that's for sure. But we, of course, utilize some of that technology in other products that we have, and then as we build on that technology and features for the customer, we tie those to, a specific customer's needs. Kind of a good example of that is the new Chrysler 200. We use a system that's disconnectable, automatically disconnecting for fuel efficiency. We use that technology that was originally launched in the Jeep Cherokee, and we use that same technology on the Chrysler 200. We tune it for the customer so that it gives you a sporty feel and gives you great all-wheel drive. It even helps when the vehicle's on dry pavement.
Now, I noticed that the new 500X, which is Fiat's new offering, which the press preview for the journalists will be in the beginning of April, but that now comes with a disconnectable all-wheel drive as well, presumably for the same reason, to save on fuel economy.
That's right. We Fiat Chrysler pioneered the automatically disconnectable all-wheel drive back in 2009 with the Chrysler 300 and the Dodge Charger, and we've been applying that kind of technology across the board as we do these new four-wheel drive systems, so that when the customer doesn't need all-wheel drive, the car reverts to a front-wheel drive or a rear-wheel drive car, and the system that takes fuel to operate disconnects under those conditions.
Now, on Friday was a very special day for me because I took delivery of my brand new Dodge Durango Citadel V6. Now that shares a platform with the Mercedes ML, and you can certainly tell that when driving it. Tell me about the all-wheel drive system in the Durango. Is it something I can take off-road?
Yeah, you can. If you have a Citadel, you probably have the. Do you have the V8 or the V6? Or the
V6. I got the V6.
Okay, yeah, and that's one of my favorite cars. It's a great all-wheel drive system that basically gives you any kind of all-weather capability, but it stays rear bias, so it gives you the feel on wet roads and dry roads that the car has got more torque on the rear, so it gives you that good steering feel, and when you step on the gas, you get a spirited driving performance. There are versions of the Durango that you can get that have skid plates and a 4 low range, and those are capable of going off road. But the system in the Citadel normally is just a great all weather and muddy, snowy, rainy, anything that you have to drive through.
So
I've probably taken mine here in Michigan. I've probably taken my Durango places where it probably shouldn't have gone, but I always got back. So.
And it's the sort of thing that probably sort of a muddy field or a bit of wet grass, that type of thing. It would cut well in a bit of icy roads. Yeah,
and like I said, if you really wanted to take it like towing a trailer, into, 2 tracks and that type of thing, it can do. One of the differences between it and the Grand Cherokee is things like ground clearance and approach and departure angle. That's really the difference where you're going to find Jeep always stays true to its brand, which with things like the ability to approach an obstacle or get over a log or anything like that, just based on its characteristics that we build into the vehicle.
Now, what's testing like for these vehicles, Mike? Because obviously we were at Mirabel at the racetrack there, and we drove on sheets of ice when we tested the all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive vehicles in Canada. But presumably, obviously in Michigan you have plenty of ice and snow, but you test them on all different surfaces, right?
Yeah, it's one of the most fun jobs, and I've worked there. I've worked in driveline for a little over 15 years, and it's been just wonderful because obviously we had to drive Jeeps in really extreme conditions, every kind of condition you can imagine. Now that Jeep is a global brand, there are folks testing it in, Sansa, Middle East, and down in South America, and all over the place. But for us in North America, we have a dedicated testing facility in the Keweenaw Peninsula in northern Michigan that we go up there for 8 weeks a year. It's great because it gets over 250 inches of snow in those 8 or 10 weeks. So it's a perfect place to create snow and ice conditions that last for that whole duration of time.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the difference between a four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive.
Mm-hmm.
What are the differences?
Yeah, for every one of the products we have, FCA offers all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive in over half of the models that we have. There's a few models like a Dart and a Challenger that we don't offer all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, but we're always looking at what the customer needs. So, the biggest difference between that really, is an illustration of like Jeep. Every one of the Jeep products has a trail-rated product associated with it. So if that customer wants to go off-road, they know what product to buy to be able to do that. And all of the Jeeps that are available with four-wheel drive really have a very capable all-wheel drive system. The system, whether it's front drive or rear drive, is set up to be, to allow the customer to do pretty extreme maneuvers with that car. They're going to expect to go through the worst snowstorm. They're going to expect to, get to their cabin in the woods under any condition and be able to get back out. For all-wheel drive cars and sport utilities and so on, we look specifically at what the customer wants to do with the vehicle. And as I said before, a car like a Dodge Charger or a Chrysler 300, we want to keep that vehicle like the character of the car that's not four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So, we want the car to have a strong rear bias feel. The customer is buying this because it has, it's a performance-type vehicle, and they want the car to stay primarily rear-wheel drive.
Excellent. Now, we got time for one more question. So if I want to upgrade from a two-wheel drive to an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive vehicle, what's the sort of added cost of that system?
The systems are, in general, a couple $1,000s. I don't have the MSRPs for them, but we try to keep it affordable, particularly on the Jeeps, because we want to make sure that any customer who wants that type of performance or needs that type of performance around the country or around the world, can get in it easily. And we offer it in, many, many vehicles. So like a entry-level vehicle like a Renegade, it's available all the way up to the Grand Cherokee and the higher-end models.
You absolutely made Sean's day, by the way, when we were up in Canada. He got to drive that new police car around the ice track. What a fun project to work.
Right. It was a lot of fun.
And the only Charger that's offered with all-wheel drive, or a Hemi all-wheel drive,
is the police version. Yeah, I will tell you that was a great time driving that police car, but by the time every journalist had got in it and used the PA system and the siren, I was a little worn out after about 8 hours of that. So, Mike, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Okay, well, thank you for having me.
Great. If you want more information, of course, you can go to either Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, Ram. Go to those websites. Which one did I miss? Chrysler, Fiat, Dodge, Ram. There's one more. Oh, Jeep. Go to the websites. Check out the vehicles. You can see what they can do capably in all-wheel drive. You're listening to Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Coming up, we're going to have our news quiz. Check out how much our in-studio team have learnt about what's going on in the automotive world. And don't forget, you can always go to Test Miles to find out more information about what's happening in the car world. You're listening to FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles.
Test Miles on FM News 101.
If you enjoy the radio show, you may enjoy our videos too. Go to testmiles.com and watch our video on the Rolls-Royce best sales year ever.
Here's a fun fact to impress your friends. The 1953 Corvette had a base price of $3,498 and only offered two options: a heater for $91 and an AM radio for $145.
You remember that, Brad?
I didn't go with the heater. I just figured I'd wear blankets.
The sad thing is you can't even get floor seats now, or the floor mats, for under $100.
Yeah, there you go. That's how things have changed since the good old days. This is part of the show. We like to test how much knowledge our in-studio team has of what happened in the car industry news this week, which means it's time to play our news quiz. Gentlemen, ready with your buzzers? The first question: who may be building a off-road pickup? Sean.
That's going to be Jeep, and they're coming out with a Wrangler off-road pickup. They actually made trucks before in 1960s to the 80s, the Jeep Gladiator. So, and I mean, people have been begging them to make a truck. I posted a picture of the concept on Test Miles, and it's awesome. They need to build this truck.
Absolutely. All right. Who's planning on having a self-driving car on the road by this summer? Brad.
Tesla is planning on doing that, which begs some questions. Why make a gorgeous interior on a vehicle if it's just going to be a self-driving vehicle? Where do you sit? Do you sit in the back or do you sit in the front?
You see, this is the misconception I think that's going on, is these car companies are calling these cars self-driving now because at some point adaptive cruise control is self-driving. So really what the car does is has to take control. So maybe on a freeway, it would be self-driving. So it'll correct itself on the lanes. It'll keep itself in between the lanes, and it'll brake if the car stops in front of it. Now, they're calling those self-driving, where they're really just safety systems that are all melded together to call a self-driving car. Audi and Nissan and several other brands have self-driving cars, which they're testing, which are fully autonomous. So I think it's a little bit of a marketing twist.
So where do you think the driver's going to sit?
Well, they'll sit.
I mean, will they sit in the driver's seat?
At this point, the federal government is not licensing a car for somebody not to be able to take control. So, for instance, you will still sit in a driver's seat with all the pedals and all the controls, and the car will work like normal, so you can take charge if something goes wrong.
I believe Google, though, has one that you sit in the back.
Yeah, so those, again, they're being tested. The earliest we were told, and before this week, was 2017 would be the first year of a self-driving car. So I think you have to define what a self-driving car is. I think what Tesla's calling a self-driving car is a regular vehicle which has some self-driving features, which were safety systems like lane departure, those type of things, where the car will steer itself, adaptive cruise control. At this point, I don't think it's what we would consider a true self-driving car, although they're saying it's just a software update. So I'm not sure quite where it's going to head. But again, I think it's just marketing spin. All right, next question. What technology group is planning on building a road car? Brad again.
So when we talk about good-looking cars, we now have to go to the ugly car. This is the triangle-shaped Delta Wing. Is a technology company, but they're talking about building a prototype that's going to get 50 miles to the gallon in City, 74 on the highway. Ultimately, what they'll do is partner with a manufacturer who would make this car. But Don Panos, famous Panos line, is the CEO of the company.
Yeah, so Delta Wing is kind of an interesting company. They've done a bunch of race cars and those sort of things. They actually say in their company profile that they will not manufacture anything. So they will design it and they will have a third-party manufacturer. All right, who's planning on launching a teen driver system in their new 2016 model? Genya.
So General Motors is going to launch their teen driver system on the new Malibu, which is supposed to be revealed in a couple of weeks. And what it's going to do is you can have, if you're a parent and you want your kid to drive your car, if you're allowed to drive your car, then you can control preset speeds between 40 to 75 miles an hour, control the radio volume so they don't blast it, playing hip-hop music, just going like 13 miles an hour down your street. And they can see the maximum speeds during a trip that your kid takes, and number of speed warnings, stability control events, anti-lock braking events. They can also see any forward collision alerts and any forward collision braking events.
So this is kind of interesting. What it begs to say is this is kind of the nanny cam of cars.
And it's also behind the curve because Ford's offered this.
Well, and to an extent in MyKey they have.
Yeah, but you can still monitor it with MyKey.
Right, but MyKey doesn't stop them speeding. It just turns the radio off and does things like that.
And we talked to Kia the other day at the Blazer game, which was nice, by the way. Thank you, Kia. You can get an alert now if your daughter is over to her boyfriend's house and you've programmed your vehicle that she shouldn't be there with your vehicle.
I love
You'll
that
get
part.
a text.
We'll actually be in front of the new Chevy Malibu at the New York Auto Show when I do my live TV. And apparently this new system will only be allowed to tune the radio to Test Miles on KXL. I'm Nick Miles. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.